Yo everyone, welcome back to a new ranking on this channel. Oh my god, it's been a while. I am probably rusty. I'm probably gonna stutter a lot this video, like you're used for me. No, I'm serious. No, without seriousness, welcome back to another ranking on this channel. I'm Arden, and today we're gonna rank down our picks for the Terminator franchise. Yes, we are gonna rank the Terminator franchise today, and as much as I loved my statement in the last rankings that I wasn't gonna do Terminator, Chucky, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Alien, all that shit. I shouldn't do this, but I'm going to do it anyway. One thing before we're gonna get started. My camera is doing weird. I don't know. I hope it's gonna work soon. But since this is the last ranking I'm gonna record, and I already recorded the rest, I'm not gonna do this over. I'm just gonna do it right now. So I'm gonna compensate with you guys with something else. Sorry for that, but I hope you guys don't bother. Let's just get started because I just wanted to get over it. Coming in number 6 is Terminator Genisys shit. Oh, where to even begin? This movie is, honest to God, feels like a glorified fan fiction as opposed to a continuation of the actual franchise. It's a film that completely negates the events of Terminator 3 and Salvation and acts like it's the third film in the franchise. But what it also does is telling us that the events of Terminator 1 and 2 didn't matter because it literally negates them in 25 minutes. Listen, I can understand why they wanted to wipe the slate clean, as the reception on Terminator 3 and Salvation were lukewarm at best. Okay, but why are you trying to erase the two movies that everyone already loves? The movie feels like some bizarre Elseworlds tale where John Connor is turned evil by Skynet. Kyle is the one who needs saving instead of Sarah. Sarah is 19, although her character is born in 59, so she should be around 25 in 84, but whatever. And Jay Courtney is allowed to play Kyle Reese as an annoying jackass who never shuts the fuck up. Listen, all of these ideas sound great on paper, but the movie does not go about them in a way that makes any sense. The movie is entirely miscast, and James Courtney was the worst choice they could have gone by for Kyle Reese. He looks nothing like Kyle Reese, doesn't sound like Kyle Reese, and comes over less of a warrior and more of a complete annoyance. Literally every line of his mouth is a stupid quip and none of it works. The action is either stolen from previous films and completely generic, the plot points make no sense, and the film makes no intent to explain its inconsistencies. The dialogue is pretty bad most of the time, and the film is miscast by no repair. Well, maybe good intentioned, it's the worst in the series for me by a clear mile. Coming in number 5, sadly, to be fair, is Terminator Dark Fate. Well, I don't care, I'm getting hate for this one, because, yeah, fuck it. I still think, to be fair, this movie has some good acting. I also think it has some decent shot action, and it's not terribly directed. The problem with this movie is the utterly disrespecting script that craps all over the legacy of John Connor, and a character that's been built up since the first movie by killing him off in the first 2 minutes. And saying, fuck it, we're not gonna add anything new to the series. The plot of this movie is literally all Terminator 2 again, with sprinkles of literally all the other movies just thrown in there for good measure. This movie is cherry picking some crap from these movies that's trying to negate just altogether. Why would you do that? This is like a Frankenstein mishmash duct taped together to make one big pile of crap, and I don't understand it. This script is just such a big missed opportunity, and it results in a film that, although liked by many critics, leaves the rest of us cheated like our investment in the first 2 films never mattered. So yeah, the film had some redeeming qualities, not everything in it is terrible, and if you like it, be my guest. But I'm sorry, I call it sellout when I see it. It sells out its characters, it sells out its fans, it sells out its integrity, and completely obliterated any goodwill that I had left for this franchise. Please stop making Terminator movies. Just stop. I would say let the franchise go with dignity, but let's be honest here, the dignity was thrown out the window a long fucking time ago. Coming in number 4 is Terminator 3, Rise of the Machines. Well, if you would tell me that Dark Fate is a better directed movie, I wouldn't argue that. It's correct. It is. You know, I would even go as far that some of the acting in Dark Fate is better as well. Much as like Dark Fate, when I first saw it, I hated this movie. I bitched about it for years. However, upon rewatching it with my dad last week for this ranking, I was surprised by how much I liked it. Not love it, but just liked it, despite its shortcomings and its faults. That being said, whereas much Dark Fate felt like they were wiping the slate clean with new characters at the expense of the previous characters and storylines, this movie felt more like a neutral progression of T2. John Connor is living off the grid, awaiting a dark future that, for all he knows, may never come. His worst fear comes to fruition though, when a new Terminator, the TX, arrives from the future to kill him and his lieutenant. And sure Terminator fashion, Arnold is sent back to protect John and his future wife Catherine Brewster, played by Claire Danes. Let's get the obvious criticism out of the way first, because this is the one that everyone used to hate on this movie. Yes, the theme of Terminator 2, that there is no fate, but what we make for ourselves is completely dicked over in this movie. That being said though, is it really fair to hold it against it? No matter what you do, any sequel you make after T2 is completely going to dick over this moral, and they pretty much all have. Whether it is this movie, Dark Fate, or Genisys, some sort of Judgment Day is always going to be inevitable, and that theme is always going to be irrelevant. In all honesty, let's be honest, they shouldn't have gone past 2 movies to begin with. But they did, so if you want anything else Terminator related, that's something you have to get over. Rise of the Machines suggests that you can try to change your fate. You can try to make your own destiny, but eventually that is going to self-correct and catch up with you. We see that as John reconnects with Catherine Brewster, and everything that should have happened years ago begins to back into place, and the ending that Terminator 3 had was a ballsy move. Now you could make the argument that the killing of John Connor in the beginning of Dark Fate was also a ballsy move. I would totally disagree on you, and here's why. There's a difference between having balls and kicking your audience in the balls. This is the former, Dark Fate is the latter. The action is fun sometimes. I would go as far that the whole crane sequence is one of the best action scenes in the last 2 decades. The TX used to bother me, but rewatching it, I don't think I gave Terminator enough credit. She can develop replacement weapons when she is damaged, she controls other machines, effectively kicks Arnold's ass in some scenes, and controls it at one point to go after John. He jumpstarts the new Judgment Day by activating the other machines for the uprising. She essentially is an upgrade to T-1000. In addition, Christina can be damn intimidating in some scenes. I mean, why ever hate this Terminator? She's awesome. She's nowhere near the level of Robert Patrick's T-1000 or Arnold's original Terminator, but for an evil Terminator, she gets the job done. I also like the plot in the beginning that since John couldn't be located, the TX was sent back to murder John's lieutenants, which is a damn good move on Skynet's part, you know? Yeah, it doesn't last long in the film, but if John doesn't have the manpower for an uprising, then I think there's not gonna be an uprising in the first place, is there? For once, it's shown Skynet not thinking outside the box. I mean, wars aren't fought by one person, folks. But as I said, there's some big problems with this movie. It's not perfect. The comedy is terrible and horrendous. When Arnold is allowed to be the kick-ass machine we all know, and love, he's great. Hell, how he beats TX is entirely badass. But all of that is undercut by moments of horrendous comedy. The tops of the hand scene and the stripper classes make me cringe every time. They are that bad. Also, while I like the idea of John trying to escape his destiny, there are some scenes where they actually kind of make him dumb. The scene in the car when they ask him if he remembers something from T2 is the ultimate facepalm moment. You watch the T-101 die, it's obvious another model, you idiot. Nick Stahl is very hit and miss for me. There are scenes where he's fine in the role and others where he just doesn't deliver. I don't hate his portrayal, but he's one of the weaker John Connors we had, and one of the whiniest, to be honest. Catherine Brewster is a fine casting choice, if I'm being honest, but she isn't allowed to do much until the end. I felt like this character was kind of wasted, and they just could have done more with her. So yeah, this movie isn't perfect, and I just came around it, but I feel it did a better job of preserving and pushing the Terminator timeline forward than Dark Fate did. Does it live up to those first 2 films? God no, but not many things do. These first 2 movies were pure perfection, and anything following those directly were always bound to be little issues. Terminator 3 is good popcorn entertainment with a great ending. It's not perfect, but entertaining enough with the right perspective. At number 3 is what I consider the most underrated entry of this franchise, Terminator Salvation. After all the films released after T2, this was the best and will die on it, and I will die on that hill. I think the biggest misconception of this film is that it's a prequel. It's not. It's clearly not. From the opening scene, the movie makes it abundantly clear that it takes place after Terminator 3, after the Splinter timeline. The original Judgment Day took place in 1997. How can this be a prequel when Marcus Wright was executed in 2003? Oh yeah, let's just throw that argument of this being a prequel out of the window. 14 years after Terminator 3, you follow John Connor in the future war. Some believe him, while others in the Resistance see him as a false prophet. Enter Marcus Wright, a convict put to death years ago but mysteriously awakens with no explanation and prevents a young Kyle Reese. When Reese is captured by Skynet, Marcus must team up with John to infiltrate the Skynet prison camp and save him. This movie gave me something I wanted from the series, a movie about the future war. No time travel, no Terminator protectors, no constant ensuring of the survival of John Connor. Well, through the whole movie at least. Just something new and unique that drove the story of Terminator in an interesting way. The movie gives us a great understanding of how this future is. How it differs from the original war, and how John Connor was able to amass such a huge legion of followers in the Resistance, despite not being the leader of the Resistance. The cast is superb all around. Sam Washington's performance as Marcus Wright is one of the best in the entire franchise. His arc is done so perfectly. It raises questions on the difference between man and machine. Can we control destiny? Do we deserve a second chance? Can we forgive ourselves, and can we push forward with our future? These are all themes that feel relevant with the series. The back and forth between him and Kyle Reese is nicely handled. I love the throwback of Marcus teaching Kyle on how to tie a shotgun to his arms. His relationship with Blair was a nice touch and wasn't overdone. It's a nice side story within the movie that doesn't distract from anything else. But it is chemistry with Christian Bale's John Connor that ends up being the highlight. Every back and forth between them is perfect. Speaking of which, Christian Bale is without a doubt one of, if not the best John Connor we ever had. His version of the character is one I always wanted to see. The one that has been built up from the start. The savior warrior of the Resistance. It felt like a perfect progression of his character. He went from a scared kid to an apprehensive hero to a hardened warrior. But the absolute best thing in this movie for me is Anton Yelchin, sorry if I pronounced him wrong, as Kyle Reese. As I rewatched this film, all I could think of was why didn't we appreciate this actor more when he was still alive? I'm sorry, but if there's a god, he could not create a human being that looked more like a young Michael Biehn. In every scene he was in, he made me believe that he was a teenage version of Kyle Reese. He gets the voice down, the speech inflections, the movement, the attitude, everything that made Kyle Reese such an endearing and memorable character that is in this performance. It is every bit as good as Michael Biehn in the original, and I'm sorry, but even the most die-hard haters of this film cannot deny that. I would honestly love to see them try. His character is so beautifully handled. Seeing Kyle and John fight side by side at 4 movies, even for a few minutes, was a real treat to see as a fan. The action all around is superb. We got a ton of different Terminators, and we finally got to see the T-600 with the rubber skin that Kyle mentioned in the first movie. And McGee directs every action scene with an intensity that never lets up. Now, there are 3 specific points that I'm going to talk about, because these are the 3 points that people often use to hate this film, and I think that all of these arguments are complete bullshit. So, let's just talk about them. 1. Why does all the action take place during the day? Kyle clearly said in the first movie that they only fight at night. Okay, fair enough. Are we forgetting that this is a completely different timeline, and that this machine uprising was brought by a different version by Skynet? Again, it's not a prequel. This is a different future war in a completely different timeline. So if humans fighting during the day instead of at night, it is entirely plausible within the Splinter timeline. Second, Skynet has Kyle Reese. If they kill him, the war is over. Without Kyle Reese, there is no John Connor. It's so stupid that they just don't kill him off. They could end the war right here. You know, it boggles me the mind that I even have to point out the other of those statements, but I'm going to do it anyway. No! Kyle Reese here does not get rid of this John Connor. By that logic, John Connor would have been vanished after Judgment Day was stopped at T2. This is alternate reality logic, not Back to the Future's erased from existence logic. The timeline was splintered into an alternate reality after T2, setting forth a new sequence of events. This is why Judgment Day happens in the 2000s instead of 97. This Kyle Reese does not, I repeat, does not have to send back in time with a dick in the box for John Connor's mom. Killing him off will not make this John Connor non-existent because it's the Kyle Reese from the splintered timeline and not the old timeline. John Connor's father is from another timeline that no longer happened. If stopping that plane of existence didn't make John Connor vanish into nothing, this new Kyle Reese sure as shit is not going to do that either. Skynet knows this. This is why they use him as bait instead of just killing him. They know that killing this version of Kyle Reese is not going to make this version of John Connor disappear. Now, you may be wondering that if this is true, then why does John Connor still believe Kyle still needs to be sent back? Because that's what his mother told him in the audio tapes that he has been listening throughout the entire movie. It's literally the only information he has to go on, aside from his experiences after her death. Number 3. How could Skynet know about all the different times that the Terminators would go after John Connor? That makes me sad that it's stupid. Well, give it hell a second's thought. Who set the new Judgment Day in motion in the previous film? The TX, who coincidentally knew everything about John Connor and the previous attempts to kill him, and who more than likely uploaded all that information to Skynet when she activated the machines. I mean, if she is trying to secure the survival of Skynet, it would be a little stupid not to give Skynet all that information from the start. So let me reiterate, none of these things are plot holes or inconsistencies when you take time to think about them. Overall, out of all the movies released after T2, Salvation is the only one that measured up. The action is great, the acting is great all around, themes are great and execute all around. The hate this movie gets over the years is undeserved and I will never understand it. Coming number 2 is a movie that I'm gonna piss a lot of you guys off, but it's Terminator 2 Judgment Day. Yeah, I know. Make your fucking own list, folks. I'm not gonna pretend this is an amazing movie. It is. It's one of the best sequels ever made. Groundbreaking effects, superb acting, a superb character development in the story that brilliantly turned the plot to its head. And I understand completely why people love this movie so much. If it's your favorite, good for you. It's never mine. Set over a decade after the first movie, Sarah Connor is in a mental institution after nobody believes her about the future war and the machines. And a 12-year-old John Connor lives in foster care when a new Terminator, the T-1000, comes from the future to kill him. John, a reprogrammed T-800, again played by Arnold, is sent back to protect him. The effects in this movie still hold up. The liquid metal effects on the T-1000 are all awesome. The practical effects are all on point. I mean, when you get to see something destroyed in this movie, it's actually being destroyed on screen. Digital effects were only used when absolutely necessary. So this movie provides a beautiful mix of both practical effects and CGI work. This movie beautifully played against expectations, making Arnold's T-800 to protect it this time around, instead of the cold-hearted killing machine he was in the first film. The trailers of this film didn't even advertise this, so people who saw it in theaters on release were genuinely surprised and happy by this. Arnold gives hands down one of his best performances in his career, as we see him learn to adapt and even become a father figure to John. Yeah, I mean, we all know, no offense, but that Arnold Schwarzenegger isn't the greatest actor on the planet, but this role is so well suited for him that when you think of Terminator, his face is the first thing you think about in your head. Sarah Connor isn't the scared waitress she was in the first film, and Linda Hamilton is badass in this movie, and it's good to see her character progress even further. The scene with Miles Dyson and his family is even a bit heartbreaking, as it is nail-biting. See her going over the edge, becoming no different than the Terminator that once hunted her genuinely sad. Robert Patrick's T-1000 is very menacing, even if he lacks the imposing nature of Arnold. Edward Furlong is a good John Connor and he has good chemistry with Arnold. That being said, his character can be a little asshole sometimes. For example, there is a scene where the Terminator grabs him and he screams for help. When two guys come to help him, he tells them to piss off and then orders the Terminator to attack them. I mean, I'm sorry, I know it's a little small part of the movie, but it always bugged the crap out of me. Like, why the hell is John such a dick in this scene? I mean, it makes him look like he's a bastard child. I mean, alright, he's technically a bastard child, but that's not the point here. Beside that one point of the film, everything else is wonderful. It's beautifully shot, beautifully acted, beautifully realized, and T2 is the definition of a perfect sequel. Coming at number 1, no shocker for anyone, is Terminator 1. James Cameron's directorial debut about a visitor from the future trying to protect a young waitress who one day will give birth to the savior of mankind remains my favorite film in this series, as well as one of the best films of all time. Everything in this movie is pure perfection to me. The casting, the writing, the cinematography, there is nothing in this film that doesn't hold up for me. And I know most of you were wondering why would you put this movie about T2? T2 is like the god of movies, man. Well, there are several things that do it for me. Yes, it was also to see Arnold's Terminator back in T2 as a protector, and it works perfectly in that film. It felt like a natural progression of the storyline, but it's Terminator against Terminator. Here there is no Terminator protector. There is no even ground. It's two humans, a soldier and a waitress, trying to survive near impossible odds against a killing machine. The Terminator, although some will disagree, I would argue as a straight up horror movie. I mean, really think about it. You have an unstoppable force of evil, an untrained and untested young woman until she is the only one left standing and must try to defeat the monster on her own. Sarah Connor is by all respects very much a final girl. Someone who starts off as weak and scared at the beginning of the movie, but grows much into something more in the end. It actually kind of pisses me off when people say that, oh, we had to wait until T2 until Sarah Connor was a badass. I'm sorry, but watching the character grow into a badass is more interesting than starting the film with her already being a badass. Let's be honest, they could only do that in T2 because they earned the right to do that in the first film. The love story between Kyle and Sarah is the heart of the movie. It's natural developed throughout the movie as you see the two interact more and more. I've heard some make the argument like, oh, Kyle is a creeper because he fell in love with a photo. That argument is entire bullshit, and I will tell you why. Let's examine this for a minute. This is a guy who was born into a war and never experienced anything resembling love. He only knows war and fighting and survival. He meets his best friend John Connor, who tells him countless stories of Sarah Connor and how she prepared him for the war. Stories of a legend, as he refers to her encounters stories. That's what he fell in love with. He is in love with Sarah and what she will become. The photo only helped him put a face to Sarah, and in the flashback we see him carrying the photo with him like a security blanket until the photo is burned. Now he suggests to meet her and volunteers to go back in time to save her. He is protecting Sarah not just for the fate of the future, but so she can become the woman that he loves. So no, let's just throw the bullshit argument that he fell in love with a photo out of the goddamn window. The chemistry between Michael Biehn and Linda Hamilton is perfect. Every reaction, every conversation, and every move they make feels natural, and of course this leads to the twist in the end that Kyle being John Connor's father, despite me guessing it halfway through it in the first viewing, was a rather interesting twist. The best twist that make you see the movie in a whole new light in a second viewing. And I'm sorry, but the Terminator certainly falls into that category. I don't think people have given this performance their due over the years. Everyone praises Hamilton for her performance in Terminator 2, but hardly anyone talks about the performance in this movie. It's a real shame. Michael Biehn, in my opinion, has always been an undervalued actor. He's great at anything, and I don't think he's getting enough attention either. Then, of course, there is the Terminator himself, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and what can I say about him what isn't been said already? He's imposing, he's scary, and while his performance is very robotic, it's perfect for the part. Whenever you see him in this film, whether him be sitting in a hotel room, repairing himself, walking in a police station, or casually strolling around, a nightclub, you know shit is about to go down. He's this huge, unstoppable force, and I probably shit myself every time I saw him coming my way. Going back to the horror aspects I just discussed earlier, his movies, his mannerisms, and unfeeling attitude remind me of a slasher villain. People can dismiss the horror elements all they want, but in my opinion, it's the very thing that most of these sequels have been missing. A Terminator should be scary. You should feel a sense of dread and unease when every Terminator is on screen. I got that a small doses in Terminator 2 and Salvation, but never throughout the entire film. Put it this way, I see the T-1000 and I say, oh, that looks cool. I see T-800 in this film and I want to duck and run for cover. Trust me, there is a distinct difference. Even the stop motion effects with the Terminator exoskeleton look scary as hell. Seeing it coming out of that fire, chasing Sarah and Kyle. Yeah, the effects may look dated to some, but I personally think that they make the Terminator film more like a robot. Its movements greatly resemble one as they shoot. See it this way, Terminator 2 is made for $100 million. This movie is made for $6.5 million. And it's far more effective in my opinion. I love its characters, I love its passion, I love its story, and I love its heart. Well guys, that's it. I hope you guys like this ranking. I think it's my better ranking compared to some others. Let me know in the comments what your ranking is of the series. Please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. I will see you guys in a bit. Later.